All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it for today. This is a pause on a series on Algebra 1 worksheets that I was doing, but today, at least in Tampa, Florida, for public school, it is the first day of school. So I thought I would tell you guys the 5 things that you need to do on your first day of school in order to, be awesome and, do well. And this is specifically for math class, but it applies to pretty much all your classes as well. Most of these are pretty general. So really this applies to all classes. But of course, I do math. So this is going to be some of the examples might be for math. But without further ado, let's jump into the list. So the first 3 things all have to do with, I guess, what you call in Christian discipleship. It's called Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy relationships. So this is just kind of a good life principle, not even just school. This is like really general. This is like super general. But in life, it's good to have someone above you, someone at the same level, roughly, and then somebody below you. So what I mean by that here in terms of class would be like specifically for math class. Let's say you go in and you like your new teacher. Well, then that person, that teacher of yours, if you seem like you get along well with them from the first day, or if you already know them and you already know you like them, then that person is your quote Paul. That's your mentor, right? That's your person that you can go to if you have questions outside of class as well. So, I mean, ideally, you would want that to be your person, but sometimes that doesn't always work out, or maybe you just like another teacher better. Let's say this isn't your first year in middle school or high school, and you know another teacher already, a math teacher that you like. That person can be your Paul too, because I guarantee you they also know the math that you're learning now. So whoever you choose to be your Paul, to be your person that you go to for questions, that's a really important person that you need to have. You can have more than one. I would recommend having at least one though. Right? And if there aren't any teachers that you know of at the school, then you can use a tutor. You can talk to your parents, right? There's a lot of people that could know the content that you're talking about, right? I myself am a math tutor. In the description of all my videos, including this one, is a link to reach out to me for tutoring, and you can get your first lesson for free. So shameless plug for that. But anyone can be your math mentor, if you will. And you need to have at least one of those, right? So that's number one. Number two, you need to have somebody at your level, all right? So this one's pretty simple, but if you're an introvert, you might not like this one. But I think it's very important, even if you are a raging introvert. You need to make a friend in math class, all right? And of course, this applies to all classes, but I'm going to talk about specifically math here. You need to make a friend. And this is really important. You need to like get their contact info. Like it could be a dude, it could be a girl, like whoever. Like get their contact info, make friends with them. It doesn't really matter too much like where they're at. They're learning the same stuff as you. So whether you don't necessarily need to factor in like, oh, I need to make sure I pick a smart person. Like no, because then that might mean that they're more of a Paul to you. You want to just kind of pick somebody that you get along with and that you can teach them as they're teaching you. You guys can kind of share ideas. If you miss class, they can send you the notes. If they miss class, you can send them the notes. You can share notes if you miss something, right? All of that stuff is really, really helpful. So you need to have what's called a Barnabas. You need to have a friend. You need to make a friend in math class. If you already have a friend that's in your math class, even better, because then you don't have to, be social and make a new friend. So, I mean, if you already have a friend, then great. But you need to have a Barnabas. That's number two, right? So number one, you need to have somebody above you. Number two, you need to have somebody that's kind of at your level. And then three, have somebody one step below you, ideally. So this could be like a younger brother or sister. If they're pretty close to you in age, that could work. If they're a lot younger than you, then this probably wouldn't work. Ideally, you want to teach somebody who's taking the math class that you just took. So for instance, if you're taking geometry or math 2 or whatever your class is called, let's say geometry. We'll use geometry for an example. So the class before geometry is typically algebra 1. if you're taking geometry and you just took Algebra 1, you want to try to find somebody who's in Algebra 1. This is harder than a Barnabas relationship because you're not going to be in the same class as them, right? So this person might be harder to find. You can settle for somebody who's like a couple grades lower, but ideally you want to find somebody who's in the class that you just finished taking. And you want to make friends with that person and help them in their class, right? So you're like, wait, but how does that benefit me, right? Like how is this going to help me? Well, it helps you because when you teach somebody something, you understand it better yourself. All of a sudden, the light clicks in your head in a new way that you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that thing about that thing. let's say algebra 1, how to graph a line or something, right? Like let's say you kind of know how to graph a line. You did well in that section, but then you teach it to somebody else, and then all of a sudden it just clicks. You're just like, oh, I get it. Like you just have a better understanding. You're like, oh, this goes like this. Like you'll get it. Trust me when I say when you teach it to somebody else, you will understand it better yourself, and that helps you. Because even though you're learning new stuff, remember, math is like cumulative. It builds on itself. So everything you're learning in math, you need to know that stuff you just finished learning in the previous class to do well in your class. So having a Timothy, having somebody below you is super helpful as well, right? So 1, 2, and 3, somebody above you, at you, right? Same level, and then somebody beneath you, below you, Timothy, Paul, Barnabas, Timothy. All right, so that brings us to the final 2 things. All right, so these are both really important as well. 4th thing, and this is maybe a little controversial. Maybe you don't agree with me, but I think, and I've tutored and taught for 10 years now, and this is definitely a thing. This is definitely a trend that I've seen. If you can stay 1 chapter ahead of the class, you will see so much improvement. If you were a B student before, you'll definitely be an A student now. If you were a C student, you'll at least be a B student, if not an A student. This is a magical thing. It takes a little bit of work, but nothing that comes easy was worth achieving anyways. If you can stay a chapter ahead, so I don't mean like a full, complete understanding. I just mean read your math book like a book, like a Harry Potter novel. Stay 1 chapter ahead. If you're on the first day of school, you get your book the first day, hopefully. Read the first chapter. If you need to skim, you don't need to like read every single little thing necessarily. Sometimes there's like little things off to the sides and things like that. Just the main text. Read it. Read it like a book, and when you get to the end, try to do some of the easier problems if you can. Just give it a shot. And it's okay if you still don't get it. Just try them, and if you're like, I still don't get this, that's okay. And you'll feel like if you feel like you don't get it still after reading the chapter and trying to do some of the questions, you'll feel like it was a waste of the time, but it was not. I guarantee you it is not a waste of time. You will understand it so much better when the teacher actually goes to teach it, because you'll already know what he or she is talking about. You'll already know. You'll be like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, okay. And this is super important. If you've ever heard of this old phrase, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. It's true about like everything, right? And that includes math. If you stay a chapter ahead, you will do a lot better than you have already been doing. All right, so I guess if you're already an A student, then just ignore everything I just said because you're great. But if you're not, normally, if you got a low A and you want to make sure you keep that A in the next year, in this coming year, I would recommend doing that for sure. And that brings me to the last point, number 5. This is, in my opinion, super important, but that's because I'm an Enneagram 7. You need to have fun. All right? It's the first day. Don't take yourself too seriously. All right? If you wanna be that person who dresses to impress on the first day, I think that's great. If you wanna just wear pajamas if you're allowed to wear pajamas. Um, you know, whatever. Uh, whatever you do on that first day, have fun, make friends, be nice, to everyone around you. Make a good first impression, but have fun, right? Because if you're not having fun, it's just going to make the year start off not so great because you're going to be stressed out, and you're only going to get more stressed out when you get close to like major tests and quizzes and stuff, right? This is the first day. Enjoy it, have fun, and if you try to have fun even in math class, even with the little things, especially if you have a friend in math class and you guys can, tell a joke when the teacher does something silly. Well, while you're still paying attention, I hope. But, have fun. That's my last thing. All right. So, 1, have a Paul, somebody above you. 2, Barnabas, have somebody at you, at the same level as you, have a friend. 3, have somebody beneath you, have a Timothy. 4, stay a chapter ahead. And then 5, have fun. That is my list. So if this has been helpful, you can throw a like on there, subscribe, all that good stuff. I also have an awesome free guide called The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. It is on my website, Myers Mathematic, link in the description below. And I think I'll also throw a link down there for a quiz. It's a little math personality quiz, and it tells you which math class you might be the best at and what careers that could translate to for you. So if you're interested in that, I'll have a link in the description below for that as well. And I'll see you again in another episode real soon.